Yeah, where we at? 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 So many people, I think they're creatures of habit. They're so used to going to the other page and seeing me there, they have to come over here and find a black man. Seems to be causing some stress for some people. But anyway, we're going to adapt, improvise, and overcome because that's what we do. So, for those in the house, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? I was trying to wait on a couple people, but I'm running a little behind. I had some technical difficulties brought on by the weather. So anyway, I know you guys are dealing with some weather, so um, I hope everything's okay for everybody. I know some people up north have been without power. I don't know if the power's back on or what the deal is, but these nor'easters and these thunderstorms and all of this crazy weather, if you ask me, it's because every billionaire wants to go to the moon but refuses to pay taxes. So that's what I gotta say about that. Okay, so I see everybody's in the house. I see my YouTubers in here. I see a couple of my Facebook people, but I think some of you folks on CPT. So I'm not gonna hold y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get started. Um, One of the reasons we're having all of this craziness is because my page that I normally broadcast from is under suspension. So I had to go back and get my Renaissance Man page and then kind of update it because I hadn't been clowning on my Renaissance page used to be the page that I used to clown, act a fool with. But when Facebook started cracking down in the beginning and started asking for didn't allow you to have an alias or what have you, I kind of abandoned the page for the most part. And I would go there and just say hello and just try to bring some of the people over to my government page. But once I started doing this podcast and my podcast started getting too popular, then they decided, I'm seeing stuff. Okay, all right. I don't know. Oh, that's probably the camera. Yeah, that's what that is. I'm repositioning stuff. Oh, okay, all right. I start seeing, I see dead people. I start seeing things in my peripheral vision. So I'm trying to get this squared away. But as I was saying, long story short, I start getting more followers as my show became more popular, then Facebook start looking for reasons to suspend me from time to time. Now they got a brother up to 30 days. So you don't see me on Facebook as much because I want to use it to disseminate useful information. People that I care about, what have you, you know who I am. I know who you are, so we can catch up when we catch up. But this, I think, is a little bit more important. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to say good evening and welcome to the show. Thank you for spending your Thursday nights with me. As I always say, I'm truly humbled. Of all the things you could be doing on a Thursday evening, you choose to be here listening to what I have to say. I'm Hank Batiste. The name of my show is called Omit da Logic. This shit makes no sense. But I got to say, I'm your host tonight, and the voices in my head, not at all surprised. In unison, not at all surprised. In concert, not at all surprised. Individually, show of hands, not at all surprised. Like I said, this is the second week of my 30-day suspension. My suspension was supposedly imposed because me and a Facebook friend was joking around. And I said, I'm going to beat you. Now, any woman that knows me, the only time I put my hands on a woman is that's a whole nother. But let's just say it's in a sexual manner. But they said that was inciting violence and I was bullying. So they used that as an excuse to suspend my page for 30 days. So I guess we're somewhere around 14 days into a said suspension. I protested, because they always send you this little thing, ask you if you agree. And it doesn't give you you just say yes or no. It doesn't give you room to make an explanation, and there's nobody that basically their word is final. But truth be told, Facebook does not like what I have to say. More importantly, Facebook doesn't like that every week, hundreds of people over several different social media sites are listening to what I have to say over these different platforms. Most important, my numbers and my reach is growing. Yes, I wanted to have that dramatic pause, that empty space. Let me say that again. Most important, the reason I'm being targeted is because the number of people that follow me over these different social media platforms is growing every week. So they had to find a way to stunt my growth. Some people, after 30 days, they may find something else to do. So I urge you, each one reach one so that each one can teach one. Get the word out that I'm going to be here. After the end of this 30 days, I won't only be here and I won't only be on YouTube. I'm going to broadcast from both of these pages. So adapt, improvise, overcome. I'm going to broadcast from both of these Facebook pages because what I'm starting to see is people on this page that wasn't on the other page. And I'm trying to bring those people over as well. So what's going to happen in another 14, 15 days or so, I'm going to expand my reach. I'm going to be broadcasting simultaneously over 2 Facebook pages. I'm also going to be broadcasting over YouTube, and my stuff is going to Spotify and Anchor and several other sites. So just be known. Wanted you guys to know that. Facebook's trying to censor me. They're trying to silence my message, but it ain't happening. Meanwhile, white supremacists and domestic terrorists are given the latitude to express themselves under the guise of First Amendment rights or free speech. So tonight, I'm going to speak to you from behind these proverbial bars of the secondary Facebook page where my usual audience is finding it harder and harder to find me. So I ask you, where are my First Amendment rights? Where's my right to free speech? But I angrily digress. Tonight, we're going to talk about 2 or 3 things. We're going to talk about my Creole powers and some predictions that I made as far back as November the 4th, or the first week after Joe Biden was declared winner of the presidential election. We're going to talk about how I predicted that Biden would have about 6 months to get his plan or his vision done because there was going to be some upheaval within the ranks of the Democratic Party. Those factions I predicted would derail Mr. Biden's vision for Build Back Better. And I also said if he was not able to curtail these factions, these warring factions within the Democratic Party on the Hill in Congress, that they would lose the House and the Senate, and he would be a lame duck president for 2 years. The Republicans, the Trump publicans, are not working with him now. So imagine what's going to happen in the not so distant future when they blow these two leads, when they lose these two advantages in the House and the so-called advantage in the Senate. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Then we're going to talk about some of these so-called people calling themselves centrists, and they use all of these excuses for not backing a plan for America, but it's based on personal greed. It's based on corporate influence and personal ambitions. So this corporate influence results in these so-called elected officials working for their own personal interests, not those of their constituents back home. Because as we've seen, those people are angry. Tonight's show is called Clandestine Republican Wolves in Dim Clothing. I'm Hank Batiste. Let's omit the logic. This shit makes no sense. Let's do it. This shit makes no sense. Nancy Pelosi. First of all, has anyone seen Barbara Streisand? Has anyone seen Barbara Streisand? Remember when I said Nancy was ineffective and should pass the gavel? Remember when there was talk about somebody else becoming Speaker of the House and Barbara Streisand came out of the woodworks with some funny girl shit, talking about she was ready to burn down the party if Nancy didn't get the nod and wasn't Speaker of the House. Remember how I told you that Nancy would be even more ineffective because these so-called progressives and moderates would be going at each other. Having a Democratic president, I knew they would take it as an opportunity. And I hesitate when I say that word because there's no other way to describe them other than opportunist. They're doing what's good for them and talking about they're trying to keep the promises that they ran on. Well, you're not the commander-in-chief. You're not the president. You're not the face of the Democratic Party. Joe Biden is. So you need to put aside your own little personal ambitions. You need to put aside your own little so-called promises and get in line for the Build Back Better, because it was that being at the head of the ticket that got you these secondary votes down the line. More people voted for Biden than any other president in the history of these United States during the pandemic. So what I need you progressives, what I need you so-called moderates, what I need you so-called centrists, what I need you to do is put your little egos aside and get with the program. Mr. Biden, I need you to strong arm more. And I never thought I would be saying this, but maybe you need to, I can't fix my mouth to say this. Forgive me. And if you ever repeat that I said this, I'm going to emphatically deny it, even if it's on. But maybe you need to strong arm a little bit more like your predecessor did, so that these people will get in line and be of one accord for the good of America. If we're going to be building America back better, then we need these people to be on one page. So Barbara Streisand, whomsoever was supporting Nancy, if you're listening, Nancy needs your influence. She needs you to start strong-arming some people. Go to Arizona, go to West Virginia, and influence some people to get on board. Talk to these folks so that they can understand this is not about them. See, this was never about Nancy being Speaker of the House. What this was about was someone who exhibited the leadership that was necessary to get those underlings a subordinates on one page. That's what it's about. So last Sunday morning, Nancy, again, made this promise. The language is there, is 90% written, and we're almost there, and we're going to have it. And she was on CNN this time, and she was talking about how this was all coming together. And now that the president had gotten in there and he came up with some numbers, and they start talking about this and they start talking about that. The language was there, and 90% of this was written. Monday. Today is Thursday, and they're farther apart than they were on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. As a matter of fact, I'm tired of seeing her prepping for the camera. This is not, if you cannot effectively lead, step aside and let somebody else give it a try. That's all I got to say about that. This is about leadership. The Dems seem to have some serious problems when it comes to leading and legislating. This past week, the House, a representative, sent this case to the DOJ and Attorney General Merrick Garland to hold Steve Bannon in contempt of Congress. Let me back up. Let me just say this. Like Nancy, like Chuck Schumer, Merrick Garland's performance has no merit right now. When the House of Representatives issued 4 subpoenas to Despicable Donnie's top loyalists or minions or disciples or whatever they call themselves, these 4 people were told to ignore and refuse to go. Ben Trump, the day before, on January the 5th, 2021, Steve Bannon got on a show and he told people to strap in and tune in tomorrow because it's not going to go the way you expect it to go. It's not going to go the way it usually goes. In fact, it's going to be, and I quote, hell. So anybody could figure out that he knew about this coup attempt. So we send this to DOJ. And what the Trump publicans has been good at doing is causing these diversionary attacks by saying, going at that person. So now they've been going at Garland, the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General, and telling him that he's been ineffective and he should step down. And as a result, he's afraid, it appears, because he's had all of this evidence for more than a week, and he has yet to bring any type of charges, even if it's not criminal charges, even if what happened to, what's his name? U.S. Marshals. Maybe we need to send my man, Tommy, after him. No, not from Martin, from U.S. Marshals, to go and grab Steve Bannon and bring him in cuffs so that he can be questioned by the U.S. Congress. Seems like a plan to me. So there has to be some type of consequence. Otherwise, these people get bolder and bolder. Right now, Bannon and these other 3 Trump publicans Trump disciples, the despicable Donnie disciples, are laughing. And there's something wrong with that, because you and I know if it were anybody else, heaven forbid, and I can't even think of, let's say for instance, it was Roland Martin, and he got a congressional subpoena, and he refused to appear before Congress. His black behind would have been in cuffs and sitting in jail until he refused to give up some information. So let's have one rule of law. That's all we're asking. That's all I got to say about that. Let's move on. What we're seeing here is modern day Moscow Mitch McConnell, and McCarthyism doing the Trump Republican work. So here's the kicker. 60% of those Republicans running for office do not want Trump to come out and endorse them. They do not want to see them on the Trump on the campaign trail. Case in Virginia's gubernatorial race. Biden and everybody and their mom has been there. Why? Because they've been trying to bait despicable Donnie to come out. And you best believe it's eating his little ego up to not be able to go there and stand in front of the mic and do some of his hand claps. Because they know the number of people that loyally support this man is not as great as they make it out to be. But this small minority is so loud, is so boisterous, and is so extreme that it makes the numbers look greater than it really is. Okay, so here's what's happening. Trump is so toxic that if he starts to go on the road and campaign for anybody but Herschel Walker, it's going to have a negative effect. But instead of the Republican Party taking that cue and moving on, they're still trying to coat, and wine and dine this minority, this outspoken minority of Trump disciples for their votes. To add insult to injury, now McCarthy wants to be Speaker of House so badly. What he's seen in the last few months is how these different factions, the progressives and the moderates and the centrists and the partridge and the pear trees and the one feather in the left cap, all of these so-called Democrats can't come together and be on one page. So they've been going out and recruiting young people who are willing to buy into the lie and support this Trumpism, this McCarthyism, this Moscow Mitchism. And folks, if it happens, it's hard to get something done now, because for 4 years, really much longer than that, because even when Obama was in there, while he was focusing on legislature, Mitch was stacking the court system, the federal court system, the circuit court system, and the Supreme Court. And by doing so, they tilted 2/3. We've got 3 legislative bodies: the executive branch, the legislative, and the judicial. So by tilting 2 of those 3 branches, even when there was a Democratic president, they kept things going their way. So when Trump was in there, they ran the board. This was like running a big BMO and spades. So they're recruiting these young people who are willing to be like Christian Cinema and do anything to be in power, to do anything to sit at the table with the so-called popular people. We can't let it happen. We need more people in the state of Virginia. We need more people in the state of Georgia. We need more people in the state of Arizona, in the state of all of these swing states that were purple and blue in 2020. We need to make sure that they're more blue in 2022. So we're about 1 year and 1 week away from the midterm elections. And this is going to determine what happens for at least the next 6 years. But mark my word, I said it last week, and I'm going to repeat it again this week. If Donald J. Trump should happen to get back in the Oval Office, you can kiss the 25th Amendment away. He's going to find a way to overturn the 25th Amendment, because right now the 25th Amendment says that a person could only serve 2 terms as president. He's going to find a way with his Republican Congress and him wanting to be an autocrat and him wanting to be Kim Jong-un, a dictator. He's going to find a way to place people in positions that says, to hell with the Constitution. This is our country. We run it my way, or you can take the highway. Mark my words. I'm going to move on. What do you call a centrist that calls him or herself a Democrat, a closet Republican, a clandestine wolf in Democratic clothing? 2 of the most famous now is Manchin and Cinema. They found excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse to not get with the program. See, what you don't understand is when you run for office and you get the okay from the Democratic Party, they give you money, just like we all week in, week out receive these letters from Val Deming and Andrew Warnock and this one and that one and Michelle and Barack Obama raising money for the Democratic Party. Those funds are distributed to those people who are supposed to be doing the work of the Democratic Party for the good of us, their constituents nationwide. Cinema and Manchin has been taking money, but they're not doing the work. Now what's starting to happen, and this is a check and balance, this is accountability, this is oversight. When your constituents, the people that you're supposed to be representing, are so pissed off that they're following you around, now you need bodyguards and what have you, because they say, who are you working for? Why does Cinema have a problem in taxing 400 billionaires who have found some reason or another to avoid paying taxes through some legal loopholes? Why does she have a problem in taxing them? You and I, if we make a certain amount of money, we find ourselves in a 33 or higher tax bracket until we find some things to quote unquote write off. These folks, the Bezos and the don't get me, these folks have been basically paying no taxes through loopholes because they invest in their companies, they get the dividends from their stock, but those dividends are not taxed. So they're getting paid both ways. As the CEO of a corporation, getting paid 1,000 times more than the highest paid person in the company, and then getting the dividends from the stock and being able to bank that in an offshore account and it not be taxed. Now, that's not going to be taxed until said stock is sold. These people are not going to sell because they always want to have the ruling percentage in their companies. So this means that. So we said we're going to pay for Build Back Better by taxing these 400 people. 400. 400 out of 330 million or more Americans. We're talking about the richest 1/10 of 1%. All we're doing is asking them or making them pay taxes, not a fair portion of their taxes, but making them pay taxes. And Sinema has a problem with that. Then Manchin comes up and he says he has a problem with a specific group, a certain group of people being targeted. Well, you did not have a problem in 2019 and 2017 in a certain group being targeted for tax breaks. You didn't have a problem with a certain group of people called corporate having their taxes reduced from 28 to 21%. You didn't have a problem with that. And some from 21 to 14%. You didn't have a problem with that. But you have a problem with 400 billionaires who have more money, who make more money in 1 year than most of us will make in our lifetime. You have a problem with them paying taxes? Fuck out of here. So yes, they should not be allowed to get any Democratic money for re-election. We should be finding people just like the Republicans are doing now. Let's target young people who are willing to go in there and do what's good for the Democratic Party and the rest of America. Not the richest 1% or 3%, and not those with this thirst for power, this lust for power. Let's find somebody that's going to do something for the rest of us. So if Manchin, if Sinema continue, and trust me, neither one of them never had any intention of getting this passed. And the only thing that I hold only thing that I hold our top three Dems responsible for, Biden, Schuler, and Pelosi, is you cannot get your people in line to get anything done. So the rest of us, the middle class, the lower class, will continue to be disenfranchised because you've got clandestine wolves in Democratic clothing. That's all I got for you tonight. Do me a favor. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the notification button, give me a thumbs up. If you have subscribed, share these videos with somebody else, with a friend, family member, so that each one can teach one, so that we can continue to reach one. Tell them also to subscribe, give me some thumbs up, and hit the notification button so that you'll know. Because I've been saying for the last almost year, I've been doing this podcast for the last 2 years. In the last 10 months, it's gotten more and more and more popular. So the last 12 to 10 months, it's gotten more popular. Why? Because there's so much that needs to be done. And I'm going to give it to you straight, no chaser. I'm going to decipher what they're doing. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about current events. And those people with their thirst for power sitting in the ivory tower who are now doing commercials talking about their community. And I am your community. So when you talk about community standards, I'm the person that you're supposed to be coming to and saying, are we satisfying you? Because pretty soon something is going to come along that takes your place. And when that comes along, and that's why I do this, because pretty soon you're going to be able to find a show in so many different mediums. I'm not going to need Facebook. So all I'm going to need you to do is each one reach one. See you here next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. As always, important. Wish you love, wish you peace. Hair grease. Omit the logic. I'm Hank Baptiste. This shit makes no sense. I'm out of here. Peace.